All right, hello, BasketNews fans. This is another episode of Hoops Journeymen. I'm Mindaugas Gobikas, and I'm joined by my friend Manny Alvarez. Manny, how are you this lovely morning?
I'm very tired, man. I had to go work last night for the newspaper for American football in the school level, and then I had to go play. It's a sport here we play called slow pitch softball. It's like baseball, but for adults who aren't that good at playing professional baseball. So I drove 4 hours from where I was to here, and by the time I got here, we had to set up for the podcast. So I'll be playing today with no sleep. So if I make a mistake on the field, I'm going to blame you.
Okay, well, yeah. So slow pitch is something I really enjoy. Not many people probably know it, but I do. I love it. So what was your batting last night?
Well, yesterday I had to write. I was writing for the newspaper.
So yeah, but you said you were playing too, no?
No. I was in the press box with my laptop writing the story and.
So you will play today, right? Later today.
I'm playing with Today I'm playing. Yesterday I was doing American football for.
Okay, what's your batting order?
My batting average?
No. Which spot are you hitting at?
Oh, where do I bat?
Yeah,
I normally bat around the seventh or eighth.
Come on.
I really don't complain where I bat. Just give me the bat and I'll hit it. So.
All right. So my goal for you today, you must reach it despite the fact that you haven't slept, is go 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and 2 RBIs. Are they steal? Do you steal bases?
No, we don't steal bases.
Okay, so 3 for 4,
2 doubles,
2 doubles and 2 RBIs.
I can do that. I can do that. We have like 3 games. We have 3 games today, so I'll try to get you 6 doubles.
Okay, so before we start, I completely forgot during our first episode to ask you what the hell happened to your beautiful mustache? Man, I'm seriously, people, look at this picture and look at the mustache Manny used to have. Why did you shave it?
I'll tell you right now, I was waiting to grow that and get it ready, but in the summer, when it's really hot over here, the mustache wax starts melting. So it goes from the curly and it just goes, it's like a happy face going down to the sad face. And like, I can't do this. It just, cause I'm very OCD. I'm very, attention to detail. Okay. And so if there's one hair sticking out, I have to make sure it goes back in. And by the time it was melting, I'm like, I can't do this. Maybe in the winter when it gets cold, so it doesn't melt. So,
but if you don't use wax, what would it look like?
It's just a long mustache in the end, which it looked ugly to me, so I had to cut it off.
Okay. Well, yeah, I give you a little bit of that because I was gonna initiate our fans to start the petition to bring back Manny's mustache, but now I understand. Okay, the weather needs to cool down, and then
maybe in October and November when it starts getting cold over here.
Okay, all right, let's do that. Okay, so anyway, let's get things started. And Manny, do you want to introduce our topic for the day?
Yeah, obviously we're going to talk to Tadas Bulotas, the vice president of Wasserman International Basketball, is an agent, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about sports agents. How different are the sports agents over here in the States to where they are over where you are in Europe? Player endorsements. Making sure the player does the right thing on social media, or make sure they hang out with the right people or not commit crimes or get in trouble with the law. There's a lot of things, that we see that I always wonder, well, is it the same over there in Europe? And I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. Is it the same over here in the States? So very, very interesting topic.
Yes, I agree. For me, it's a juicy topic because at some point during my sports management studies, I was actually thinking maybe becoming one. So yeah, to me, first of all, it's a mystified profession. We have movies about sports agents and they're always, associate with superstars and celebrities and whatnot. But so I want you to start by telling how these things, this profession started in the United States, because for me, we don't have a lot of history with sports agents, just as we don't have a lot of history with professional sports. Being a post-Soviet bloc country, we had professional sport in 1990 something. That's when we started. So agents came along even later than that. So, but your history with player agents is much, much, much longer. So can you tell us, like, when and why did this profession appear?
I know for the longest time, like in the 40s or 50s, or even in the 60s, and even in the 70s, because it wasn't happening that often in the 60s and 70s. But back then, when you wanted to negotiate a contract or talk about how much money you wanted to get, it was player to coach or player to the team owner. And I mean, some of these athletes, they don't know how to negotiate. They don't have the business degree. They're an athlete. And so they don't have the business aspect of it. So I think around this, like there's, American football, there's these old school coaches where it's their rule. No one's going to step over them. And I remember, and I think you were going to mention it, but I might as well do it. I remember hearing that story about Vince Lombardi, where an agent called and said, "Hey, we need to negotiate a contract for my player." He's like, "Your player, hold on one second." And then comes back and says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I just traded that player to Chicago. You go ahead and talk to them." and that's how it was, And I know in the 70s, there was this football player who actually I've talked to. He coaches, I was covering American football for the high school students. And this guy's actually a head football coach in where I live. When he was a player in the 70s, his agent called the owner of the football team in Cincinnati, said, "Hey, I need you to renegotiate my contract for this player." It's like, that player needs to talk to me then, and hung up the phone. But I think eventually when the teams went on strike, the players went on strike, he said, "Hey, in this deal, we need the agents to basically talk on our behalf, because they know how to talk to the owners. They know how to make the deals and how to make sure they get top dollar for their player." And so I think that's what happened. They went on strike. "We're not going to play until you let the agents talk for us." And that's how it started. But I know for a while it was, "No, you're not going to talk to me. The player needs to talk to me. We'll negotiate how much you're going to make."
Right. So the way I understand, and it's I have some examples from Lithuania as well, that the owners and then the coaches, as you were saying, they sort of discouraged players from having agents, because it's obviously disadvantages for owners and the managers, I guess. So in Europe, I remember having the same conversation with one player who was telling me, I call the club. The club manager answers the phone, and then the first question he's asking is, "Do you have an agent?" So if I say yes, he hangs up the phone. If I say no, then okay, let's talk. So yeah, I guess it's somewhat the same. Players were discouraged from having an agent in the early ages, right?
No, very much so. But yeah, like I think all it took was, "Hey, you know what? We're going on strike. We're not going to play until you can let my agent come in and talk." So I think finally at some point the players just said, "You know what? We've had enough of being taken advantage of." And now the agents are coming in. And honestly, I think today now the owners are being taken advantage of, because you see these big contracts over here in the States. LeBron James is making how much? You see these baseball players, they're making 20, 30, almost $40 million a year. So it's the tables have definitely turned. The agents are definitely stepping all over the owners.
So what about the young athletes today? Because I know you, Manny, work closely with high school players. What's the culture there? Like at the early age, do they already know that, okay, at some point I'm going to have an agent? And then if they do, how do they learn about the agents and where to find one?
You have to, I know that a lot of them don't get caught, but they probably go behind the scenes saying, hey, you know what? Like, I know we're not supposed to be talking because it breaks, the rules. But when you're ready, talk to me. We'll get something going. So I think they kind of have a scope of who they're going to talk to as far as agents. I'm sure, like, again, it's their AAU coach might know somebody that might help them out. Maybe their parents have already figured out, maybe you should go ahead and talk to them. But that one is something I haven't really figured out. And I feel maybe it might be their AAU coach or their high school coach or their college coach that might say, hey, here's some agents that you should probably go ahead and talk to. But sometimes there are those agents that go behind the college, or like they go in the alley and say, hey, I know we shouldn't be talking, but once you're done with college, give me a call. We'll go and work something out. I'll give you a lot of good money for now in the future.
Because the reason I ask you is one of my students did a research on football, soccer players in Lithuania, and the majority of them indicated they didn't have an agent. And when he asked them, like, why, and then do you want them? Do you want to have an agent? A lot of them answered, yes, we want to have an agent, but we don't know where to get one or where to go for information to ask about one and things like that. So that's why I asked, is there a, sort of a structure for athletes to figure out like what's next, how to find an agent, how to check on him and things like that?
Not that I'm aware of over here, but yeah, like I said, I mean, there are a lot of crooked ones over here that try to cheat the system. Because if you try to get an agent in college, you're not playing college anymore. They pretty much kick you out. So it's you got to be very careful about it.
Okay. All right. So is it a well-paid job?
It depends who you sign. Somebody's like we talk about baseball, you're going to sign those young 15-year-olds from the Latin countries, and you hope that maybe they work their way up and make it to the big leagues, and then they start making money. Some of these athletes, like in college, like the basketball ones, the Kwame Browns of the world, or Michael Olowokandi, where you think this guy's going to make a lot of money, and maybe they do for a couple years, but then when people find out, oh, he's not that great, he starts losing that money. So it just depends on how much money the athlete makes and how much of the cut they get. Like, hey, I get 10% or 15%. It's hit and miss. It's like playing the lottery or going to Vegas. You're going to win big or you're not going to get that much.
Yeah. Well, what's the commission in the NBA? Is it 4%?
That I don't know. I think it's around 4-6%.
Right.
I mean, the best ones get 10%. There's an agent over here for baseball called Scott Boras.
Okay.
A lot of baseball fans hate him because once your favorite team's best player, once their contract's over and Scott Boras comes in, that means he may not sign with that team because that team doesn't have the money to pay for him. But the best agents get like 10%, but they also give you so much money. So 10% doesn't mean that much, but normally around 4%. It just depends how much the athlete's making.
All right. So jumping to the European part, I have few observations regarding player agents from my European experience. First of all, like I said, it's young profession in my mind, and so once you have something that starts, there's really a lot of disorder in the beginning. So I give you an example. I worked for the Baltic Basketball League in 2005. As there were teams from Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and so one team in Lithuania had general manager who also was a player agent at that time. And that team also employed the player who that GM and agent was representing. So can you please imagine the contract negotiations? How did that process went? It was the same person, GM and player agent, negotiating with himself about that player's salary. And I also wondered, has he received commission on that contract? Manny, what do you think of this absurd situation?
I feel like they might take advantage of the player like that. If the GM and are you saying the GM is also the agent?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like when I think of that, I think, man, that means the GM's going to take advantage of the athlete, not give him that much,
Well, no,
like
I know the behinds, so I can tell you that the player was the highest paid player on the team. He actually got paid pretty well. So what happened was that this guy took advantage of the system. So he was the director. He was receiving salary as a general manager, and then he had the fund. He controlled the funds of the team. So he assigned part of those funds to his player and probably even took the commission. So he did a great job for his client player, and then as a director, for the club he didn't negotiate good deal, but for him it was like, for me, it's huge conflict of interest right there and then. It's unbelievable. So what I was getting at is those things shouldn't be allowed, and they aren't allowed. So yes, those regulations have been passed by FIBA in 2006, but as you can see, it's only 15 years ago. So that profession sort of was structuralized and then formalized, and now it's not everybody who just decides can become an agent. So there is more order to this business. Also, what I was gonna say, and then I plan on asking our guest when he comes to the show, is for a long time in this business, agents in Europe were paid by the clubs. So my question is always like, why do clubs need to pay for the agent if the player who is initially hiring an agent, like what's the logic behind it? What do you think?
So they're paying. So basically, you're saying they're paying the athlete and the agent.
Yes, correct. Yeah, the club pays.
That means,
yeah.
It seems kind of sketchy because that means the agent might ask the athlete, "Hey, you still have to pay me 4%." So he's getting 2 paychecks out of it. I mean, I'm sure maybe some agents will have that business ethic, like, all right, you know what, they're paying me, so you don't have to pay me anything. But I get the sense that some agents would probably play dirty and say, you know what, let me get another check out of this too. Seems very sketchy, and then I wouldn't trust it. I mean, because I mean, it's my money. I just feel like if I'm making, that much money, I might have an agent that's going to play me dirty and take some of that cash too.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't think that through. You took it to a whole nother level, because for me, it was just the question is, look, who is hiring what? So if, that's the answer to who needs to pay. If player hires agent, he needs his services, then the player needs to pay. If club will hire agent to find them a player, then yes, the club will pay for the services of agent. But yeah, in this situation, you took it even to a whole new level.
I guess I did. I did.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, it's weird because the club paying an agent is something you don't see here in the States. So that kind of caught me off guard. It's very, very different over there.
Yeah, I know. It's because in the States, it's all on the player. He receives a paycheck and then he needs to pay whoever is on his payroll. So it's the car.
And not only that, but there, like we'll mention with our guest, there have been some players in here in the United States where they've been taken advantage of because the AAU coach will say, you know what, I'll be your agent. Or maybe the dad said, you know what, I'll take care of your contract. I'll be your agent. There was a football player in the 80s named Bernie Kosar. He played football at the U, legendary football program back in the 80s. And when he signed with the Cleveland Browns, his dad said, you know what? Here's a contract, and the dad gave the son gave his dad $1 million for getting him in that contract. And the son didn't know that the team also signed a contract to the dad for another $1 million. So the dad made $2 million, and he just stole $1 million from his son every year. I mean, money talks. I mean, it makes you the most evil person sometimes, and it even comes from the father. Who knew? But it's some of these players just kind of fall for it. They think, you know what, I trust this person. He'll take care of me, but he's not an agent. He's not a professional, and I'm sure that has to happen a lot over in Europe as well.
Well, yeah, I was gonna bring this story that just came out on the news few days ago that Nerlens Noel just sued his former agency for mismanagement. So I was gonna ask you, okay, why things like that happen and blah blah blah. But now, if you have a example of father stealing from his son, then yeah, we don't need to bring Noel's situation into conversation. Yeah, far worse things can happen, I guess, and there are plenty of examples of those things in agent business, right?
And not only that, but now you're thinking, well, what is the agent just negotiate your contract? That's it. There's a lot more. I mean, the agent has to make sure that his image is good, because if his image gets damaged, then the next team that wants to sign him is like, well, we're not going to pay him that much, because look what he did a couple of years ago. He got arrested for having drugs or driving drunk, or, Lord forbid, he hit his wife, or he did this and did that. So we're not going to pay him that much because he's a liability. So, I mean, these agents also have to say, hey, be careful, man. Don't hang out with those people. Don't do this. Don't do that. Hey, maybe you shouldn't put that on social media, because you lose millions if you do one stupid thing. And so these agents are really just on their toes, making sure their athlete is clean and out of trouble. There's that American football player, Michael Vick, fantastic athlete, but he hung out with the wrong people. And while he's playing football, his friends are doing these dog fighting rings where dogs are killing each other. And he gets in trouble. He goes to prison for 2 years. And when he comes back to the NFL, he's not making $25 million a year. He's making $1 million a year because his image is destroyed.
Right. Yeah, I remember Michael Vick. Was he on NFL 2K or no Madden NFL?
He was on Madden.
Cover,
and right after he goes on Madden, the cover of Madden, he got in trouble for the dog fighting.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even the one that started that thing. It was his friends. He just kind of kept quiet because it was his friends. But it cost him millions, and his image, even though he's turned his life around, his image is forever damaged.
I agree. Yeah, people will never look the same at Michael Vick. Yes, yeah. And true that. All right, so shall we bring our guest and then get the more complete answers on the questions that we raised, right?
We're just amateurs.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So it's time to bring our guest and answer all the questions that me and Manny just discussed a moment ago. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tadas Bulotas. Tadas is Vice President of International Basketball at one of the most powerful I was going to say sports agencies, but it's talent agency, Wasserman. And Tadas, so welcome, and how are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me. Doing good. How about you guys?
Well, yeah, we just spoke about it. There's this huge time difference between me and Manny, so we need to always, manage these time differences. He's in LA, I'm in Lithuania, so I'm good. It's middle of the day for me, but I know Manny is barely awake because he has an early morning. So Manny, you want to tell people how you feel? Tadas, actually.
I'm very tired, but I think I can suck it up and get through this one. So.
All right.
Yeah, it's 6 a.m. for you, right?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Yeah, I know. I've been there, done that. Trust me, when I spend time in LA, I still enjoy more rather than really being here and dealing with waking up US. So that means, I don't have my evenings nor my mornings. So so it's you get to enjoy early up, when you're there, because the rest of the day is pretty easy.
Oh, of course.
So, yes, it was quite challenging to coordinate this meeting, obviously, with me and Manny being in separate parts of the world. And then you, Tadas, traveling basically from where Manny is to where I am, and God knows where else. So once again, thank you for finding time for us. But I imagine this is the peak time of your season in your profession, isn't it?
I mean, it's going towards decline, I would say right now. Guys are already starting their preparation with the teams at this moment. So if I was on the peak right now, probably I wouldn't be doing a great job as an agent. I still had, a lot of players to sign. But yeah, I mean, I would say the peak is at the end of July, beginning of August. This is when the peak is. So I'm hopefully I will finish, in the next few weeks.
Okay, so I want to start us with a bang. So can you name two biggest NBA and EuroLeague stars that you represent? Just show people what a hotshot you are.
I mean, EuroLeague stars, yes. I think Gobikas, Ulanovas, Kuzminskas, Lekavicius, all these players, can be called, one of the key players in EuroLeague. With Gobikas probably being the headline of it, and then regarding NBA, I cannot really call them stars in the NBA skyline. I mean, it's something I've been working on, and myself, I had 5 players that went through the draft process and got drafted. 3 of them are in NBA right now. 2 of them I still represent. And it's Isaac Bonga, who just actually recently signed with the Toronto Raptors, and Arnoldas Kulboka, who just signed with Charlotte Hornets. That's the 2 players I have currently in NBA. Hopefully more to come.
So, dude, did you get to deal with MJ himself?
No, myself, not really. I deal mainly with international scout, GM, and assistant GM sometimes. Well, if Arnoldas gets to the point where we discuss multi-million deal, in the long term, I'm hoping I will get a chance to deal with him.
I was gonna say if you've dealt with LaMelo Ball yet, but I know in other sports, these agents will, like in baseball, they'll sign a 15-year-old player from the Dominican Republic or Cuba. And they don't get their their 10% until they make it to the major leagues, because they're not making that much money. Is it the same thing with you guys? If you sign someone that's not making that much, you say, what, like, we'll wait till you make it to the big leagues, and then you can start paying your cut because you're not making much.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. I mean, US is of course different, because the heavy recruitment is when the kids decide to leave college and join the draft, and so it's a heavy recruiting time right after the student decides to become a pro. Over here in internationally, the system is in the way that all of the great players, good players, they do need the representation when they're 16, 17, 18. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, up until they're probably 22, 23, we don't really make anything on them. So that's how it is. I mean, and sometimes these clients, even if we invest time and money into them, they don't even stay with an agent. So with the same agent, I mean, so yeah, I mean, we're taking risks, obviously, but the reward normally is worthwhile.
So, but what's the general perception of player agents in North America, for example? Because you're obviously a big part of this whole sports industry. Take coaches, GMs, players, fans, and then the player agents. So, what are the attitudes from all of them towards the agents? Are you guys seen as a good guys in the industry?
Well, I think like everywhere, it's based on relationships, and if you're not, let's say helping a coach and just taking players in the middle of the season from the coach and you're giving, let's say him a hard time, not to really, help him understand your player or help in the communication between them, or even helping him sign a player that he needs, then the relationship is not going to be great. And, his attitude towards a specific agent is not going to be good. But, as long as the relationship goes both ways, I feel like, good agents are always respected. Doesn't matter who it is, team, parent, coach, player. I don't think fans care so much about agents, to be honest. But yeah, I think I'd like to think that I get as much respect from all of these, contributors, to the player as I do respect them.
So can you tell us, how did you start? Like how did your career start in this business?
I started officially in 2009. This is when I acquired my FIBA agent's license. It was kind of spontaneous. I was in Kaunas, student, first year in college, and I was invited by former, basketball player Tadas Bulotas, who just got involved in this team called Sakalai in Vilnius, and he invited me to come and, let's say, work for him. He established an agency, and I was working for the agency, then in 2012, I opened up my own agency. It was called B Baltics, and this is when I started to do everything pretty much on my own. And this is when I actually got really serious. But Arturas Bulotas decided to hire me not because I was just a kid. He knew that my dad was in the business. He knew I knew the business. I was around since childhood. Writing emails for my dad, translating the scouting reports that he did for Cleveland Cavaliers. And even, as a small kid, he was a sports director of Atletas, who was, second best team in Lithuania. I was always around, guys like Ilgauskas, Stombergas, and all of these, big names. So I was always around basketball.
So yes, so this happened in Lithuania, Europe. But if you were in America, would it be any different? Like, do you think it's easier in America to become an agent, or would it be harder?
No, become an agent, I think it's probably harder. It's just more competition. The first year, let's say, investments, I think has to be bigger. It's hard in US. It's going to be really hard for you to be able to recruit a kid who's an NBA player, because at the point where he is going to decide who's going to choose, representation wise, he's already going to be a pretty known name, and an agent who is just starting to sign a guy coming out of college who is in consideration to be an NBA player, I think it's almost impossible. So I don't think US would be easier, but I think US does provide, let's say, more chances, abilities to be, let's say, a bigger agent. And I think it would be different, a little bit different, but that's what I'm doing right now. I mean, I do recruit now in the US as well.
I know a lot of agents have to do damage control. Some of their athletes may do something that might be wrong, might get in trouble with the law. Have you ever encountered something where you may have to step in and kind of help the athlete out, or maybe tell them, hey, maybe be a little more smart next time?
Yeah, it's mainly minor things, but obviously, every once in a while you have a situation like this, and you have to be, let's say, harsh to your client at points. Probably the toughest, situation in my career was when my client Mindaugas was accused of fixing a match. I don't know how else to explain it in English. And I was in the tough spot because the team decided to fire him without any real evidence. And I was then associated with the player as well, who was accused of, fixing a match. And it was a tough call for me, let's say at that point, on whether I should, support him and really help him, or, should I just stay quiet, not get involved, and, not, let's say, destroy my own reputation if it turned out it was the true. But, client is the client. You either trust him or not. And I was really, happy and grateful that I did trust him, and we came a long way, and he's now successfully rebuilding his image.
Yeah, as you said, so it seems that a lot of it becomes more of like a way of life. Because I imagine, yes, if something happens to a player, for example, in the middle of the night, gets into a car accident or something, the first person he calls is probably his agent. So you would have to deal with all these kind of things, and then you would say, it becomes more of a personal relationship where you get to know person better, and then obviously trust person better, and then obviously go into more aspects of each other's lives.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's part of being a long-term relationship, with a client and, with an agent. I don't think there's a chance to make it work for a while if there's no, let's say, connection in a personal level. I've had, clients right now who decided to change agents and come to me because they couldn't, let's say, establish a good personal relationship with their former agents. So I think, yes, I mean, it's not the primary thing. It shouldn't be, none of the players should choose an agent because they like them personally as people. But I think it's one of the attributes that is important if you want to make that relationship last.
You bring up, I know there's a rule, like if you want to run a business, you don't run it with your best friend, because that friendship's going to end eventually. And it's kind of the same thing with agents. But we notice in the past, some people will pick like their cousin or their travel ball coach as their agent. Have you encountered that over in Europe? I know in the US it's happened before with like the AAU coach is the agent. Have you encountered that where maybe somebody's trying to sneak in so that you can get some money out of them?
Yes, I think there's always a try. I mean, not always, but I mean, a lot of times people try. In US especially, because they calculate money. I mean, if they see that, let's say, this kid is potentially an NBA player, I mean, it's pretty easy to calculate how much money he can make depending on the, projections on where he's going to be drafted. So then it's, let's say, what are you aiming for? But I think, unless you're LeBron James or, Kevin Durant or some of these, superstars, those tries normally don't last too long because it comes up until the first mistake, and mistakes will happen when we don't have experience. So in Europe, I don't see that quite oftenly in Europe, I would say. But I think it's also because these kids have to choose early, 15, 16, 17, the better players to choose an agent, I mean. And at that time, people don't really know how good the player might be. And they don't know how much it's worth trying to convince him, to have you as his representation. I think that would be my guess, my insight. I think that's why it's not really happening that much over here in Europe.
So in terms of negotiations, who are more fierce negotiators? Is it the NBA GMs or the EuroLeague GMs?
I mean, it's hard for me to really compare because I haven't been in the position where I could negotiate too much with an NBA team yet. All of the players that I've been involved with, let's say, didn't really have the negotiating power. I mean, we're just happy they are wanted in NBA. But in EuroLeague, I think it's getting more and more that I mean, EuroLeague overall is getting to the point where it's getting closer and closer to NBA. But obviously, I think in NBA everything is on the higher level. From front office to players and everything. So you probably can. I mean, that's what I would guess.
Have you ever had to give some advice to a player? I know, like over here in the States, maybe they're hanging out with the bad crowd that might get them in trouble. Like the story with Michael Vick, the quarterback, NFL, American football quarterback that hung out with the wrong crowd and had the dog fighting thing. He had to go to prison. Was there any moment where you saw like, hey, maybe you shouldn't hang out with these people because they might give you a bad image?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it happens. It happens often. It could be friends, could be even family members like parents, and or whatever, girlfriends and people around that. You can really tell if it's giving them bad influence. I would say then I'm talking to them and really exposing them for this. It's a really risky field for an agent because you never know which side he's going to choose because that's his closest people. So we usually normally we try to find ways to solve the problem without really confronting it. Let's say if we think that the problem are the way the parents are, let's say, pushing him is a main issue for kids to develop. We try to possibly find a solution how to bring him a little bit further from the families so they're not overdoing stuff and so there's always, let's say, ways we try to do it, but if we see that it's not really changing, we have to confront them because in any case, even if he's gonna fire you as an agent, most likely, if we don't say anything, he's not going to make it.
So I heard a lot of stories about parents being very much involved, especially in young children, sports development. They even tell coach what to do and what not to do. So obviously parents are always involved. And then could you compare the American parents and then the European parents, which are more hands-on and involved when it comes to the player agents?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, I think like every family, it doesn't matter where the family is, Europe, US, anywhere. It really depends on few things, and it's mainly related to the culture and income and is the family just if there's only a single parent or a standard family that always been together. So it really depends on these type of things rather than country, I would say. But yeah, that's how I would see it.
So, but how the whole recruitment process is done? Like, how does it start? Is it you guys look for clients, or they find you, or it's a bit of both?
I would say majority of good players, they don't really look for agents. Agents are trying to find them. If a player is looking for an agent, that's mainly because he's probably not happy with his current representation, rather than, if he needs to look for an agent, something is most likely off. If nobody's reaching out to him, nobody trying to represent him, that is already, showing that there's a chance that, people don't really view you as a potential high level player. So yeah, we try to find those talents and we try to hunt them.
I wanted to see the comparison of player endorsements. I know in the US, obviously shoes is big, like, LaMelo Ball with Puma and, Kobe Bryant with Nike and, Air Jordans. I went to the store and I saw Jason Tatum on the bag of chips. Is it about the same over in Europe, or you're going to walk through the store and you're going to see, a certain basketball player, holding, that soda, or is it different in Europe?
Yes, I think it's a lot different, because probably it's just less money, obviously involved. I think most of the marketing is mainly done through the team, national team, or let's say the team that players are representing, because teams usually own the image of the players while they're playing for that team. So what they're, when teams are paying salary in Europe, they're paying it also for, in order to use players' image. So I think that's an area which will eventually change. But I think, the European market is nowhere near US market when it comes to basketball. European market probably is a lot more interesting when it comes to soccer, football. But other than that, let's see, in our company, it's not even comparable. We have very few marketing deals that we do in at least I do for EuroLeague players, just EuroLeague players.
So, but how are you involved in, let's say, social media management? Like, do you help athletes with their personal image and just social media involvement?
Well, I think, I think I at least try to tell them what is good and what is bad. And if I see something is not how it should be, I would, tell them you shouldn't do this. But other than that, we have the whole, group of people working in our company that can help our clients with anything, from any graphic visual design, from actually making videos and pictures and providing insights and getting, accounts verified and bunch of stuff that we do. And, if a client is looking for some help, or, then we just simply connect them with a group that is doing that in our company.
So you touched upon it briefly, that the EuroLeague is getting closer and closer to the NBA. So give me your bold expert prediction. Will we ever have NBA Europe type of conference?
I don't think so. I don't know why. I don't know how it will look like. I think the continent is just, we're far, it's still a long trip. So I think EuroLeague will, eventually come really close to NBA, but I don't know how they could be connected, or at least I don't have an idea of how it would work, because you still gonna need, if you want to make a European, let's say, division of NBA really competitive, you need to attract, American superstars. They have to come over, live here, and play here. Otherwise, Europe is always going to be, the European division is always going to be behind. So I don't know. I don't know any, too many American guys who would love to live in Europe for a while, and I don't see it. I don't see it.
Would it have to do with more like pride? Because I know, like in the Olympics, people want to beat the Americans, and we kind of still see NBA as the Americans, the United States. Is it more of a pride thing? Like, we're going to keep ours, and our goal is for the Olympics to beat you every 4 years. We don't want to associate with you.
No, I don't think so. I really don't, I think everybody wants to be best competition in any field. So I don't think that's the case. I think logistically that's the main reason. It's just that it's too. You see, you're in LA, and we just woke up, and we are here, about to close our Saturday, and it's tough. It's just time difference, and traveling is not easy.
So, but for you as an agent, would it be better and easier to work, or you actually prefer to have two different systems, one in the NBA and then the one in Europe where you can just work differently?
No, that's tough. I think it's really tough to be good at both. You can be good at one and then somewhat decent in the other, let's say, market and the other system. But I think EuroLeague, with the newly established, Players Association, and, right now they're working towards, having these, minimum salaries. And they're trying to do something, and like NBA is doing. So I hopefully at some point they will be close enough to be good at both, be really good at both.
So you would agree that having a player union is also helpful in your line of work?
Yes, I think it's important, because that's the way to really help the league understand on what is important for the players. Ever since the players union here in EuroLeague was established, is that they were able to reduce the hours they practice. They were able to implement things like having one day off a week, and stuff like that, or starting the preseason a little bit later than some teams did in the past. So there are some good things that is going on and helping the players, and I think that players union is the only way to have that conversation.
Manny, you're down.
I'm trying to think of another question here, but
no worries. I'll ask what I was. When you and I talked earlier, I said I was gonna ask it. So here he goes, Tadas. I know. At least in the past, it was like in Europe, agents were paid by the clubs. Is it still the same?
Yes, in majority of clubs, it's still the same. I know that this is one of the things that EuroLeague has been trying to work on with the Players Association to let's say revert it and have it that players pay agents. So I think it's gonna come, at least for EuroLeague teams, or it might come at some point. I wouldn't be surprised, but as of right now, teams are paying the agents. That's how it is.
So, but what's the logic? So, for example, I'm a player and I make 100,000 a year. So you are my agent. So you get extra 10,000. So I am costing now to the club 110. Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct. Plus taxes and everything. Yeah.
Right. So, but so what's, because to me, I'm like thinking, if I'm a club, I'm like, look, I don't need this agent. I didn't bring him in. I didn't hire him. Why do I have to pay him? Like how?
Yeah, I think, it's hard for me to say because it's been there forever, and I think
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
not, I think it's a fair conversation to have. The only logic, reasoning that I kept thinking of, why is that, is because normally, if that cost would be, bear by the player, let's say, if your client wants 100,000, right, into his own pocket, that means I should be getting 10,000 euros on top of it to make my fee. So what I will do, I will negotiate a contract with the team for 100,000 and 10. And taxes wise for the club, it would cost more. Then they would just pay the invoice of an agent for the 10,000. You know what I mean? So I kept thinking, I thought that maybe that was part of the reasoning on why it was structured like this in the past, but I agree with you. I mean, obviously, the main party that is getting the service is the player. Even though we do help the teams as well in communicating, because otherwise it's hard for them to reach out to the player, to make sure they come on time, to make sure you are always helping the team in some sort of way in communication. So it's not, I wouldn't say that we are not providing any type of service and that they don't need us. I think they definitely do need us, but obviously they're not a client. The client is the player.
Yeah, so I agree. To me, the question is who takes your services. So yes, there could be situations where, for example, Team X calls you and says, "Hey, Tadas, I have 300,000 and I need a shooting guard. Can you find me someone best for that price?" So then, yeah, you go out, you find a player, you bring them, and then they sign. Then, yeah, I could see them paying you for that. But if the player brings his agent and he helps him, with his contract negotiations and whatnot, and then at the end of the day, team pays for his services. I'm like, hey, if I'm a team, I'm like, okay, send me a dental bill and send me your car dealership bill. I'll pay for those too. Yeah.
And it's not only that, like sometimes it's weird because, some teams try to, use it and, for example, even pay you earlier than the player, expecting that, if there's any issues, they would be, they know that the agent got, paid on time and he should be happy and he might be helping, us instead. And it's, I agree. I totally agree. The logic behind it is definitely there. I think the only logic against it is that putting that fee on top of players' salaries will increase the budget of the teams because of taxes.
So, but the technicalities, then how does it work? In the NBA, I imagine the player receives his check and then he pays whatever commission he's owed to his agent after he receives his check. So, what about Europe? Is it really possible that the agent receives the entire commission in one sum, like with the very first payment?
No, I'm not. Well, I think, the main difference is that all of the amounts, we are hearing and we're seeing in NBA are gross. So that means, these players get the money and they pay taxes, they pay everything. They pay all of their bills, car rent, apartment rent, and they pay their agents, their financial advisors, lawyers, and whoever. Over here in Europe, all of the numbers we're hearing is in the value. It's a net value, So the money that is being paid to the player, and he gets it, free of any other charges. So I think that's where the main difference appears. Because all of the contracts in Europe, due to different taxes legislations in countries, it's hard to implement the same structure and just pay the player and he will be responsible for his own taxes. Because for every player to move between countries and having different tax systems and everything, it's hard. So that's one of the reasons I mentioned taxes before, because I think this might be one of the main reasons the agent fee was ever put, on top of the club's responsibilities.
So okay, again, from your experience, who would be more demanding clients? And take really average European guy and then the average American guy. Who is more demanding?
I really think it depends on the character and the person himself. I've seen players who are millionaires and they are very low maintenance, and there's guys who are a lot lower level players and they are really high maintenance. And it's really probably coming from the way they were raised, the mentality they have, the perception towards the world and human beings. I think let's say money and status of the player, it doesn't really reflect the way the work is done around them. I think it's more about who they are as human beings.
Yeah, I agree. It's not up to nationality, I guess, but how the way you were brought up and then your values and things like that. So, Manny, are you still there?
When I just wanted to mention, I think, when I just was working mainly with, Lithuanians, where, I'm based at, I never realized how much, let's say, the environment around their childhood really impacted their, careers and ways of developing. Because let's say in Lithuania, I mean, there's obviously every family is different still, but we're still somewhat in the similar, let's say, level, not huge differences. But as soon as I started to recruit in US and Germany and Italy, and where there's immigrant families, there are families that raise these kids and just single mom but not like in Lithuania we would have a single mom family, but father was somewhere around, they were divorced or father passed away. In other places, I mean, these kids never met their fathers, so they have no clue who they are, and that's where the broader the recruitment scale is. You get to realize how much it's important and how much it's different.
And what about your age? Because you're obviously a young professional in my eyes. So what kind of factor does the age pay in this profession? Do they look maybe less serious into you when they see you're young, or it doesn't matter?
I think it comes, I'm 32, turning 33 this year. So I think right now I'm at the stage where it's getting a little less problematic. Let's say to trust, for parents to trust me as their representatives. At the beginning, it wasn't definitely easy, even though, I try to explain people I've been doing this since I was 19 and I have, this 13-year experience. And even though, I'm really young, I know what I'm doing. But, still you can say things, but I would say, 5 years ago, it was a problem and I needed someone by my side. I needed someone from US to be part of the team that represents a client. And I wouldn't be able to do that alone. But I think right now, this is at the point where I'm able to do that by myself.
All right. I'm worried about Manny. Are you still alive?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of observing at this point.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, I'll probably let Tadas go. So yeah, he gave us good information. I got the answers to all of my questions. What about you, man? You have something left maybe for Tadas still?
I'm not sure if social media was brought up. When I used to work for ESPN, 10, 12 years ago, and I got in trouble for writing something on social media. At any point, have you had to tell a player, hey, maybe you shouldn't post that because it's gonna get you in trouble?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it did happen not once, multiple times, that I told, people you should delete that. And it happens. I mean, I think for a lot of people, not only athletes, but I think, people tend to express themselves sometimes in the social media, not really thinking about today or tomorrow, but like not really thinking, a year from now or 2 years from now. And I think it's an honest mistake to make. I think, people tend to do that. And obviously I've been there, had these type of conversations multiple times.
All right. So we'll let Tadas go. And before our podcast, I was thinking, what am I going to wish to you? And how does this sound to you? I wish you to sign 5-year, 10 million contract within the next 3 years in the EuroLeague. Is that doable?
In the EuroLeague?
Yes,
yeah,
EuroLeague.
I think it is. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's exactly what I wish. You have a guy in mind? Who is that?
Yeah, I won't tell. Won't tell. I have a guy in mind.
All right. So yeah, 5-year, 10 million within the next 3 years. Best of luck to you, Tadas. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tadas.
Yeah. Thank you, Manny.
So, Manny, what do you think? Do you want to be an agent?
There was a documentary on ESPN years ago where they had the really good agent looking for the big names, and then that rookie agent who just graduated college, who's getting all these small players, and he just had a hard time trying to keep these players, because if they start becoming good, they go to that better agency, and they leave that rookie agent alone. So I feel it's like a car salesman. You're trying to sell that car, but then they see the other dealership that has their cheaper car, so they go over there and you lose them. I feel it would be really tough. And then not only that, but then you got to make sure that he's doing the right things. He's staying out of trouble. Yeah, he's hanging out with the right people, that mom and dad aren't trying to take money from them. It just seems like it's a very stressful job. It's like being a parent, but worse. Look, after talking to our guest, I would say no. But I remember there was a point in my life where I'm like, maybe being an agent would be pretty cool, but I didn't see all the other aspects of it. And looking now, it's like, no, I'll just stick to being a podcast co-host.
Yeah, because you absolutely hit the spot with the glamorous, cool part of the profession, hanging out with the superstars, with the celebrities and whatnot. And I was ready to already establish Journeyman agency. I thought you were down for it, but yeah, if not, then I guess we're not gonna get into agency business.
You got to have a life too. I mean, you got to go on vacation or be with your kids. And I get the sense if you have these athletes, you have to. It's like walking the dog every day. You got to make sure that they're not going to the bathroom on your lawn or on your living room. So it just has to take so much out of your time.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's more of a lifestyle because, if in the middle of the night, if he calls you, you can't tell him just to fuck off and, wait till the morning, because you will obviously get fired.
And I'm sure, you're having a romantic dinner with your wife. She's happy you finally have time, and all of a sudden, boom, the phone rings and saying, hey, I just got arrested. I was driving drunk. I'm like, oh no. Now you got to find a way to do damage control. And then you got to figure out, oh no, he's going to lose a lot of money in his next contract because he's a liability, and then you got to leave that romantic date from your wife, and now she's upset. And then it's like it's like those people that are married to their job, but worse, because it's 24/7.
I agree. Okay, this is settled. Yes, we're not turning agents.
No, I'll stick to being a reporter.
Right, and then we like playing softball and then having romantic dinners, uninterrupted romantic dinners with our significant others. So yes.
In my case, by myself, but yeah.
I'm always there for you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
All right, so thanks for waking up early. As usual, it was good time. Thank you, buddy, and have a good rest of your day, and talk to you soon.
Of course, man. This was a great topic. Can't wait for the next one.
For our fans, thanks for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, drop a comment below. We always appreciate that, and see you soon. Bye.
Take care.